Hello everyone and welcome back to another iconic interview here on SAFC Fan TV. I'm joined by the man Lee Judges from arguably the most recognisable football channel AFTV. Lee, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for asking us on. Looking forward to it.
No pleasure. Right, there's only one place to start. That was sadly the North London derby defeat to Spurs on Sunday. What were your thoughts on the game?
Well, I'm just about getting over it. It's a big disappointment to me because I felt like, we're probably the better side. But unfortunately, we just can't defend. And it's just going to be like the same story over and over again. And people were getting a little bit too hyped up about us. And then, but it was only 2 weeks ago we lost to Brighton because we couldn't defend. And I thought we played quite well during the game. But, the defending was absolutely non-existent.
It's weird.
The first goal, bad enough.
Well, after that, it's just to lose to 2 goals like that, where just schoolboy mistakes at the back. It's a tough one to take, isn't it?
It is a tough one to take, and it's also, people turn. I was just speaking to my mate just now before I come on here, just saying, like, the forwards didn't play well, but yeah, they get 1-0 up, and then they keep seeing these defenders making these sort of mistakes. It's going to have, knock them down a little bit, So I feel very, very. Listen, we'll be here. I'll be here this time next year. If we don't recruit new defenders, we're going to be in the same position. We've got to get in 2 new central defenders, especially if we're playing with a back 3. And even if you're playing with a back 2, then you can play with 4 at the back. So, we're playing 3 at the back at the moment because basically the defenders Arteta doesn't trust in. They're not good enough, and they need cover. But it's still not good enough, Jacob. So. A bit of pill to take that is to lose to them, and realistically, in a North London derby that had nothing riding on it, just pride, and so we haven't even got the bragging rights and pride going into next season now. So bitterly disappointed.
It's sad because there's a few Gooners who I speak to who miss like the North London derbies back in the day of those players going that extra mile, especially the defensive players you had, where it was like Nigel Winterburn, Martin Keown, Tony Adams, who just used to like kick the crap out of people for fun every time you played Tottenham.
And Stevie Bold, of course.
Stevie Bold,
with the Sunderland connection, without a doubt. We just, look, listen, we all know the football's changed. Defending's not like it was back in that day, but you can still do the basic defending right. And when I look at it, and I see professional footballers, not just professional footballers at the highest level of the game can't defend. It's incredible. I don't know how they've got to live it. I really don't. Like George Graham would be going mad at this moment in time. So, like Kevin Ball, for instance, down your end was a proper defender, proper player. We're crying out for players like that now. They're just not there. I think for me, it's like the first thing they ask is, it should be, can you defend? But the first question they ask, can you play football? Well, back in the day, it was if you could defend first and then you can play afterwards. And like people like Steve Bold, Tony Adams got better in the footballing sense the longer they went on. But the first and foremost, that what they was good defenders. And unfortunately, the word good defenders in Arsenal doesn't go. Doesn't go.
It's a weird one because when we had Steve Bold back in the late 1990s with that brilliant Peter Reid team where we finished 7th twice in the Premier League, like he was in the latter stages of his career, but like he would always like put his heart and soul into defending for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And he was just like a top draw player to have on the pitch because of the experience he had. When he came to you as your assistant manager, like I thought he would have solved that defensive issue that you've been having for years under Arsene Wenger. And for me, like even like when he eventually left, it seems like you've gone even further backwards. So surely there's something not right in the heart of that football club when it comes to like the coaching side of the defensive duties on the pitch.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's not in the DNA, Listen, Steve Bold, by the way, was a fantastic defender for us, and I think he was a good coach. Well. But I don't think he was allowed to do what he wanted to do. I think Arsene Wenger sort of took over all that sort of side. Didn't really let him do his stuff, and so his hands were tied a little bit. And I just feel that, you know, it doesn't matter how good a coach you are, if these players don't want to defend and don't want to do the what I call it, the dirty work, then you're up against it. And I think that was the one thing that I don't know how, if he had it, he'd been tearing it out. I don't know how he, you know, looks at some of these players and thought, my God, you know what I mean? They're earning twice, 3 times, 4 times more than what he ever earned. And they're nowhere near as good as the likes of him and Tony Adams, you know. And Arsenal, you know, back in those sort of days, they didn't just have that. They had Martin Keown as well. You know, they had some proper defenders, you know. And we haven't had a decent defender since Sol Campbell. And that's how long ago, you know, when people say that, that's how long ago it is.
Like Sol Campbell, he, like, moving from Tottenham to Arsenal, like, a lot of people don't really understand, like, that divide. And, like, he put himself at risk, especially that first game going back to White Hart Lane when you signed him. But he just knew, like, he let Arsenal Football Club, like, get under his skin. Once he signed, like, he just knew what it meant to the area, like, when it comes to, like, putting those defensive performances in on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, like brave decision to move from one club to another. You know what I mean? I'd imagine it's Newcastle to Sunderland is probably the same, or Sunderland to Newcastle. It doesn't happen very often, to be fair, with Arsenal and Spurs. Very, you know, I can only sort of name a few. Pat Jennings being one that unbelievably, like, gets on with both sets of fans. You know, but with Sol Campbell, there's a definite dislike for that. You know, and but, you know, I think you have to admire him for doing it. He was like, you know, listen, if it was the other way around, you wouldn't have liked the way he went about it on a free transfer as well. But, like, you know, he was determined to win trophies, and he felt at the time that Arsenal could do that, and he was proven right. So from that point of view, that's, you know, great for us. It was a lovely buzzing of a signing when he comes as well, because it was like one over Spurs. It was laughable. It was great, and we just took their best player for nothing, you know. But and of course, Spurs will never forgive him for that, you know. And but what a defender he was, you know. The biggest compliment I can give Sol Campbell is that he replaced Tony Adams, and people don't turn around and say, "Oh, we missed Tony Adams." And Tony Adams was the man for Arsenal in defence for so long. But he replaced Tony Adams, you know. People still go, "Oh, Patrick Vieira's not been replaced." You know, maybe Thierry Henry hasn't, Dennis Bergkamp. But no one says that about Tony Adams, because Sol Campbell come in and done an excellent job.
Yeah. What does Mikel Arteta need to do to take your side to that next level in terms of the players he needs to bring in the summer? Obviously, starting with fixing your dodgy back line at the moment, but in terms of further up the pitch, I guess that all depends on the players that potentially may leave as well and who he'll have to replace. But then it goes back to the problems you've had with your board, like keeping players on and also like offering them new contracts, and like the contract situation at Arsenal over the last couple of years, like even going back to the Arsene Wenger days, fans believe is still a bit of a joke.
Yeah, unbelievably so. You know, I think what he's got to do is he's got to address the defence. We need, I think that's obvious, but I think Arsenal needs to really look at it, and Arteta needs to look at it, just a spine. I think we've got a goalkeeper. I think Martinez has come in the last few weeks and has been absolutely unbelievable, like outstanding. So we've got 2 good goalkeepers, but on the periphery of that team, we've got some good players, you know, wide players and players in the attacking areas. But what we haven't got is a what I call a firm, strong enough spine. It's weak, and we need to strengthen it up. So we're going to have to go into the market and bring in, I think, a powerful central midfield player. I know that Partey's being mentioned, like, you know, that would be a great signing for us. Somebody of that ilk that's going to come in and just give us that solid base in front. Now, as good as Tony Adams was, as good as Steve Bold was, as good as Sol Campbell was, and as good as Martin Keown was, they always had Patrick Vieira, Petit, Gilberto, Edu, someone in front of them to protect the front. You know, as weak as our defenders are, they haven't got even that protection, you know. So we need to get someone in there that's going to protect our good central defenders, to let our fullbacks or our wide players to excel from that there. So that's the main thing that he's got to do. When people turn around and say, oh, it's a complete new rebuilding job, I don't believe that it is. I think that we need 3 or 4 players. We're going to have to move on a few to get the funds for that, but 3 or 4 players are needed, and they've got to all be, Jacob, big, strong, athletic players. Going back to the old Arsenal, none of this little tippy-tap football stuff. Big, solid players.
Is that not your style of play, Lee?
Yeah. Like, you know, listen, I love playing football, you know what I mean? But you've got to earn the right to play football. You've got to be able to, you know, battle it out. And I think over the years, if you look back, we've been out-muscled more than one occasion by Chelsea when they had Drogba and Essien and those sort of players. And even so now, when you look at Manchester City, I think they're a great side, Manchester City, but they've got some big players in there. You know, for Ferdinand, they've got some powerhouse players. You know, Yaya Toure was there before that. So they've all, as good as they've got, you know, the Silvas and the Agueros, the smaller little players, which are really, really good. They've counter-attacked that with some big players as well. Liverpool the same. Van Dijk, look how big he is, big and strong he is, you know. And I think that you need to have that in your team. I really do, and I feel that
a couple of Kevin Balls. That's what you need. A couple of Kevin Balls.
Like, yeah, exactly. He was there. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you look back at those Sunderland sides, you've had Big Noel Quinn. You know what I mean?
Super
Kevin
Quinn,
Phillips,
love that man.
A smaller sort of side. A guy, but could do that. So you had that little mixture of it as well, and you had players that would put their foot in. You know, Jason McAteer was another one that put his foot in there, like, you know. So they had Sunderland had players that would do that, and the reason that you were successful at that time is because you had a good mixture. And I feel that, you know, it's like when you're baking a cake. If you haven't got the right ingredients, it's not going to be a good cake. And I think at the moment, Arsenal's ingredients are,
well,
you know, we're icing sugar and flour at the moment, not that makes a good cake.
Is that your application sent off for the Great British Bake Off then, Lee?
Well, that's it, like, you never know. Never know.
Right, so Lee, going back to 2016, coming out of the Emirates, you've just been beaten at home by Swansea City, full of anger towards manager Arsene Wenger at the time. A lot of fans wanted him to go. What gave you the persuasion to go on and do that iconic interview that's beamed all over the world right now on AFTV?
Unbelievable. Do you know where it stems from? I don't like. We played Swansea on I think on Tuesday or the Wednesday in midweek. But my anger stemmed from the game against Manchester United on the weekend. We'd gone to Man United, and when the teams come out, we was actually in the football hotel where I was doing a little bit of hospitality in there. And it was all like Man United fans and all that, and they see the team sheet and they said, "Oh, you know," and every one of them, I swear to you now, Jacob, all these Man United fans, not one of them tipped Manchester United to win that game. They said it's going to like the best we can hope for is a draw. Arsenal had their best team out and everything like that, and we went and wilted. We absolutely wilted.
The birth of Marcus Rashford that game, wasn't it?
Yes, Marcus Rashford. That was he scored a couple of goals that day, and but we was just, you know, it was non-event. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever been mentioned before, like coming out of there by car and all that. It's a 2-hour thing. So I was fuming, like, you know. So you can imagine it now, going to the Emirates now on a game against Swansea, who were struggling, you know, for relegation. And we ended up losing it 2-1. We can imagine I was boiling. I was in, like, thunder. A few of my mates had gone to the pub, and my mate Martin was with me, and we was just walking past where they do the Arsenal Fan TV stuff. And it was a little... It's nowhere near to the capacity that it is now and how big it is now. But there was a few around it and everything like that. And I just said something on there. And someone said, well, you know, why don't you go and say that on there? So I said, all right, I will. And as I said that, the crowd just parted ways, and there was just this light and camera.
Like Moses by the sea.
Yeah, something like that, you know what I mean? So I thought, oh, no, I better say it now, like, do you know what I mean? So I was sort
There's
of
no
like,
going back now.
No, there was no going back, exactly,
Yeah.
like, you know, so no going back. And I just said what I said, and that was it, just walked off. I wasn't on social media or anything like that, weren't doing nothing like that. And I got onto the train station, and I thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that, really. That was a silly thing for me to do and all that. Like. So I phoned one of my mates who was meeting up there, who was like on social media and all that, and I said, I think I've done the wrong thing here. I've gone he's gone, "You've done what?" So I said, "Yeah, I've gone on that Arsenal TV and I've let it go." You know what I mean? So he's looked on his phone. He's gone, "My God, Lee, it's going mad. It's
Was your
going
phone
mad."
like overheating the next morning, more or less?
Yeah, because I wasn't on social media or anything like that. So the time I got home was about 12 o'clock at night. And 3 o'clock in the morning, Tony phoned me up and he's ringing me on my phone. You know, and he's going, "Oh, Lee," he goes, "it's going absolutely mad. It's going mental." He goes, "You know, this is going crazy." So I didn't know then. Of course, like I comes out the next day and, you know, and I'm thinking, no, honestly, Jake, I'm really worried because I've got like contracts with what I do with Tesco's and all that. I think,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
upset things like that. You start panicking a little bit. I was a little bit nervous thinking, oh, if I upset people. And I went to work the next day and of course the people in the offices and all that going, we've seen all this. And, oh no, like, and, but it was going absolutely mad. It was just gone crazy. And, so when all this was going, and then the local paper, they brought out. So that was probably what the Wednesday. On the Friday, the local newspapers brought out because there was a big argument between Piers Morgan and Gary Lineker about it, about the actual interview. So the local paper in Cheshunt and all that got in it. So there, I'm on the back pages of that, and I think, oh, you know what I mean? Like this is, you know, but of course. We played Spurs on the weekend. Well, as I'm going down to the Spurs game, I'm in the bar and all that. My phone, Jacob, is going wild. There's messages coming on it, and it's just going. I'm going, what is going on here? Like, you know what I mean? And what happened was they was all doing the BT thing, Ian Wright and all that, and they were going, "Oh, if you've seen this video, it's fantastic," and all that. So like, I was now on BT Sport and people were messaging me and saying, "Oh, you're on BT. Ian Wright loves you," and all of this, blah blah blah. And it was just mad. Of course, then I got myself onto social media, and it's just gone absolutely crazy from there. You know what I mean? Where I've been able to do different things, meet all my sort of players that were my idols, growing
Idol heroes,
and all that, and getting some meet them and everything like that. Unbelievable. So so that's how it went from there. And then like, obviously become an AFTV regular from there, and that's how it went. You know, just one moment like that, and it just set up everything.
I mean, that's what I was going to ask. Like, how much exactly has it changed your life in the 4 years? I mean, like walking down the street, do you get people that like come and say hello and stuff, like congrats and stuff you've done?
Exactly. You know, like I'm very fortunate. I don't get no sort of hate from it, from whatever. But that first time that I walked into the pub, you know, after that, and people were going, "Oh, pat me on the back, well said, we love you," and all that, like, blah blah blah.
Queue for the free pints.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. Like, but then I've got like from then on, I've got like, you know, my Arsenal life changed. You know what I mean? Wherever you go now, you get people coming up for photographs, wanting to talk to you. Like, you know, I've been invited into, you know, when I used to go football, I used to walk around the ground going, "God, I'd like to go into one of those boxes," or that, you know, like the hospitality at Arsenal. Now I get invited by companies to go in there and do things like that. I've, you know, been unbelievable, fortunate and things like that. So yeah, it's just absolutely, you know, changed it from, you know, like, do you know when, like, I'll tell you how it was. You know, you'd finish your game and you get home and you'd go on Facebook or you go on one of the fans forum, and I'd say, "Oh, Ozil was rubbish today. So and so was not very good," or whatever. Like, and I'd casually look back about 20 minutes later, replies none. You know what I mean? Like, no one interested. Like, you know, if I put something down now, it goes crazy. People, like, you know, respond to it, like, you know. So, you know, for me, it's been a big positive for me in the Arsenal thing. You know, like, to get to meet players and, you know, things like that. Unbelievable. Like,
yeah. I mean, we are the next generation of like football fans, like going into the future with all these like football channels knocking about now. It's a shame at times, like, we are painted in like a bad light, if you know what I mean. Just like, because I feel we do have the right to have an opinion, but I feel when it comes from, like, I remember watching that interview with, was it Robbie and Simon Jordan on TalkSport?
Yeah.
Going into like that heated debate, Simon Jordan like saying if that was my football club and there was a channel like that, I'd shut it down. But at the end of the day, we're only just reflecting on what we see. And that's all it is at the end of the day.
Exactly. Like, you know, the reason that, how can I say it? A lot of people don't like that. You know, I'm an older generation fan, like, yeah. So I feel I've got a good opinion on this. I think the older generation fan doesn't like to see change. But unfortunately, growing up through football, you know, when I first went, it was in the, you know, like terraces and everything like that. Brilliant. You know, but because of Hillsborough and things like that, everything changed. To a different thing. Football evolves, things change in football, and it has with the fans. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you used to have magazines and things like that. Like we used to have you know, get your gooner, like they used to say. Like,
yeah,
when
we've got our Love Supreme fanzine still going today. But
yeah,
like,
yeah. And you could actually say, look, I thought so and so was rubbish this week and things like that. It's been there, but social media has just changed the whole complex of life, not just football, just life. You know what I mean? And like now, everybody, you know, like doing these fans. And the one thing that what doesn't give it the credibility is because what happens is, and it's obviously a massive thing with AFTV as well, is that when you lose, people then getting on there to sort of take the mick, like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what people don't like, you know what I mean? When you win, it's fine, but when you lose, like, let's all jump on and we'll watch AFTV because there'll be someone that's going to lose their rubbish and all that. Like. But the facts of the matter is, take that away, fans were still losing their stuff and still bantering each other without all of that going on. You'd go into the pubs and you'd still, you know, or you'd go work on a Monday morning and the stick would be there. It's just now it comes to you straight away, you know. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I can see that now. Like if you was playing Spurs on a Saturday and you'd lost to them, it'd be all quiet on a Sunday. Or, you know, you'd get a lot of stick and then you've got to go through it all again with your workmates and all that. But now with social media, it's all on you at the same time. So within a day, you know, you've been bantered for the day from a Spurs fan. You can get on with the rest of your life, but like, you know, it can be a process of 2 or 3 days in the old days, you know. So for me, it's great to see channels coming up and all that. And I tell you, you know, one thing about it, I think, is that you can, you know, you can connect with different fans. You know what I mean? Like going back in the day when I went football, you know, if you was playing Sunderland, it was head down, get yourself in and get yourself out. But now you go there and you know, like if you're at the ground and someone, you go and meet them and go, hello, how you doing? All right. And there's a little bit more friendship with the rivalry, which I think is a great thing. You know what I mean, it's a great thing.
Yeah. I mean, the credit, or like the little thing that I like feel sorry for you guys in particular is like people criticize your opinions, but when you look at like the season ticket prices that your fans pay, like you have every right to view your frustration. And like, I think people don't really get that bit.
Yeah. Listen, it's a big frustration with Arsenal fans. You know, I mean, we're paying at this moment at Arsenal. We're paying, and I've always say this: we're paying like West End prices to go and watch a Village show. You know what I mean? That's how it is. You know, and because of and whether you like fans TV or not, pressure's been put on because of that. Because you can get out there and you can say that. You know. Now I've spoken to footballers, you know, players about my video and all that, and I've said to them, "Oh, you know, did you get to see that?" And they're saying, Arsene Wenger saw that. You know what I mean? He knew that, you know, what was going on. You know, so for someone like myself or you or who's ever doing it, like, you know, if you go to a game and you've got frustrations and whatever, and you one hard thing about it is that you're shouting or you're having a go on deaf ears. All of a sudden, these channels now give you the opportunity to go on there, and if you do it right and do it correctly, you get your point over. One, it's good therapy, and two, it may get to the people that matter, and they think, do you know what, that guy's talking sense. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be doing this. We should be doing that. And all of a sudden, not through fan TV, I'm not saying that it has, but all of a sudden, away prices have changed because fans have got a voice, whether it be through meetings or TV or whatever. So now all of a sudden, the fans have been you know, I think a little bit more respected. And one of the great things, you know, that's going to come of this is that we're all watching football now, right? And no one's really getting right into it because there's no fans. There's no fans. So all of a sudden, me, you, all the fans now, you're to make a professional football game a professional football game. It's got to have good players. It's got to have professional footballers. It's got to have this. It's got to have, but it's also got to have fans in the ground as well. So all of a sudden, I think people are starting to realise, you know what I mean, how important fans are. And if a fan channel can do that and get through to it and whatever, then that's great. And when you're paying money, the one, you know, when I've done that, and a lot of people, what I speak to about when I've done that first interview, you know, shout and scream, a bit of swearing. People love all that, like. But what the one comment that got me to get to where I was, or it made it explosive, or what it done, you know, got Ian Wright liking it and got it talked about on TV, was that I turned around and said, you know what I mean, Arsene Wenger
past the sell-by date.
Yeah, well, no, that did help as well. But I said Wenger was not prepared to overspend in the transfer market, but us fans overspend every week. Yeah. And that is a fact. You know what I mean? It is a fact. You know what I mean? There are fans out there all around that, and fans can relate to that, whether you're Sunderland, Arsenal, Spurs, whoever. At the end of the day, when you go to football, there could be a choice for you. Like, you know what I mean? I've got to take my mum out for dinner, or I've got to give that up or go to the Arsenal, like, you know. So you give up things to make sure you go to your club. And then when the club's turning around and saying, well, we're not prepared to do it our end, the fans are going to not be happy with that, like, you know what I mean? You're giving it your all, you know what I mean? Giving up so much, you know what I mean? Like paying 50, 60 quid, you know, to go to an Arsenal Spurs game, Jacob, like, you know what I mean? The minimum to get in there is 90 quid, 70, 90 quid, you know what I mean? So for one game, you know what I mean? So it's a lot, you know, a lot of money. And there are fans that will have to save up to go to that game or go to a game, you know, can't afford to go to every game at the Emirates, you know, because they can't afford it. So they, unfortunately, like, if you're playing someone like Burnley, no disrespect to Burnley, it's a lower grade game, you can get into there for £28. When you know, all of a sudden it's a £70 difference. You know, is that fair? £70 difference from one game to the next, but fans have to go to the Burnley game because they can't afford the Spurs game, or they have to pick and choose.
Yeah, I mean, that will probably be seen as, like, now an offence to Arsenal fans, considering that you and Burnley are more or less next to each other in the table. So if that's the case next season, it wouldn't, like, shine a good light.
Exactly right. Exactly. And there's the point, you know what I mean? Like you're saying to an Arsenal fan, right? Okay, we've got Burnley coming down here, or Leicester, who are even higher than us, and you're expected to pay a low price. You know what I mean? Like, well, hold on a minute. You know what I mean? They're better than us. You know, so you know you're getting all of these bands of like different teams and all that. Well, you're not an elite club no more, so you shouldn't be being elite prices. You know, look, listen, it's not just Arsenal that do that. If Sunderland are playing Newcastle, I'm sure it's a bit higher than if you're playing like Crystal Palace or someone like that. Yeah. That's the way football's gone, unfortunately. Like, you know, yeah. Realistically, it should be every game should be the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
At the end of the day, but this is the thing. See, fans have been abused on that side of things. Like, you know what I mean? Hopefully. As I say, these sort of channels and everybody else now can get a voice. And it's very, very important to get a voice. Of course, people like Simon Jordan don't want you having a voice. One, because it ain't good for them and for clubs. And it's also not good for Talk Sport. You know, I know a lot of fans now, you know, and years ago when I played, when I was at football, go football, as soon as the finish, you going home, I'll get Radio 5 on, listen what they've got to say, or you get on Talk Sport, see what they've got to say. Fans don't do that now. They're going onto the channels and watching what they're doing. One of the reasons they're going onto the channels is because they don't want to hear about on the radio about how Man United have done against Leicester. What they want to hear when they're coming home is what Sunderland fans think of the game. And what Arsenal fans think of the game, you know. So that's why they don't want things like that on there, you know, because I don't want to listen to, no disrespect, that Newcastle drew 1-1 with Man United and how well Man United defended in the last 5 minutes. I want to see it about Arsenal. Yeah. So, I, you know, like we come home on the coach from games, you know, our minibus and whatever. we're having a laugh and all that, and I'll put on the videos and have a little look, see what's going, see what they're thinking, what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? And that's why I, before I actually went on to AFTV, I watched them, and I think it's great that fans have got a voice, definitely.
Yeah, and that's like with Talk Sport especially, I think they're now just a little bit intimidated that like we're getting all these views, like because people are interested. And I think going on to, I think Talk Sport, especially like during lockdown, I find some of the content's been absolutely toxic to listen. I mean, it's still Adrian Durham like ranting and raving, particularly about your club, but he always had something to get off his chest. And for me, that's not entertainment. It's all about the fans should come first because they are, like we touched on, paying the money.
It's all about clicks. He's trying to bait Arsenal fans for whatever. I don't listen to it no more because, you know, I don't want to. But when you analyse something like, you know, Arsenal played Spurs this week, and you know, AFTV done a watch along. You know, I mean, watching a game of football, you've got 5-6 fans watching a game of football. It's pulled up nearly 900,000 views. That's nearly 1 million views. You know, now radio be looking. When I see that, Jake, I think like, who the hell wants to watch-alongs? You know what I mean? Like, but then when you look at it, it's a big thing now. You know, and so the radio stations, for instance, I think, you know, they're panicking. Talk Sport is not getting what it wants. You know, and also, which is a big thing, you know, and I think there's something that maybe they've missed out a little bit here, Talk Sport and people like that, which they have started to do it with Sky as well, because, you know, you do want to hear what the professional footballer's got to say, the one that's been, but you also want to hear what the fan wants to say, because you can identify with how he feels and how what he's seeing. You know what I mean? Sometimes, if you're a professional footballer, you're not in that environment, so you don't know what it's like. It's great to hear that, but you don't want to hear it all the time, Jacob. You know, sometimes you want to go, do you know what? I want to listen to so and so and feel his pain, because I'm feeling that pain as well. Where you've got a professional footballer who's not got any connection with Arsenal or Sunderland or whoever, going, well, I felt that, you know, they didn't defend that very, very well and whatever. So you want to hear what fans saying, and so I feel they've probably missed a chance of not having fans on things like that, but which they have started to do now. I don't know if you know, I've been on Sky Sports a couple of times when they've asked you little opinions and things like that. Yeah. So they are seeing it, you know what I mean, and they're doing, like on Sky now, the little fan. They're doing the watch-alongs with the professionals. You know what I mean? So they're looking at what you're doing. You know what I mean? That's how you got to look at it. So whatever concept you're putting in there, people are watching.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to lead on to my next question now, because like the fans are so important in football, and right now we're in a very dark time for the game because we don't know whether fans will be allowed back into stadiums next season. But if they are, it's all about finding the right safety measures to like get them back in, because I feel like right now I get the impression a lot of people are watching Premier League games, and like it was good to have football back when they were first brought back on Sky, but now a lot of them are just like bored stiff. Like, we want the magic back because the fans bring that in football. Yeah, exactly. Like next season 100%. They have to get the right back. I don't think all of the fans will be allowed to go back in straight away. There'll obviously be guidelines in place, but it's all about finding the right balance. I mean, I'll ask you this, like if football Arsenal fans are allowed back into the Emirates next, in terms of like, is it interviewing outside the stadium? Have AFTV like discussed like safety measures they'll be like putting in place to like not draw like crowds together, but also like keep the distance in and like get the job done at the same time? Yeah,
no, nothing's like that been discussed yet, obviously. But you know, when we go into the studios now and everything like that, we have to have safety checks and things like that. At this moment in time, and that's a great point. You know, what they're going to do on that side of things. The crunch of the matter is football can't survive without the fans. Now, yes, the Premier League can, and maybe the Championship. I'll say maybe with the Championship, but other than that, none. All those other two. That's why they cut off the football from the other leagues, because financially it's no good. Now, that's not just in professional level, that's non-league level as well, that get good crowds as well. So they rely on the fans coming through the door. So football can't survive without the fans. So they're going to have to do something to make sure that the fans come back, and it's got to be safe. you know, there's a lot of talk at the moment, Jacob, that, you know, that fans will be able to come back, but you won't be able to go to away games. So away fans will be like not able to go, which is a tough one because there's a lot.
I prefer the away trips, man.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've got a few of my mates that don't go to home games; they just go to away games. You know, and the away day experience is completely different to a home experience. And so, you know, for me, I enjoy the away games. You know, there's something about an away game, but that case scenario, that might be the case. And yeah, we've listen with AFTV. You know what I mean? That you know, it's I don't know, it's 60, 70 deep before you can get to Robbie and the camera. You know, sometimes it's really difficult to get in there. You know, you have to sort of use your charm and like they recognise, you know, like you want to get through. Otherwise, you would never get through. So that is something that they'll have to think about doing when it comes up. You know what I mean? But the one good thing about AFTV is that they're pretty good at. You know, when we go into the studios now, it's all done properly. They're pretty professional, making sure that everything's safe for you as someone going in there, but also for everybody else as well. So I'm sure that they'll have to think of things like that and go accordingly. You know, but the thing is, Joe, with a lot of fans are going to is if they want to go back as well. You know, I know a few fans that have got illnesses and are a little bit worried about, I'm going to go back, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to take the risk, you know. Myself personally, if they said, look, you can go back tomorrow, I would, you know what I mean? But there are going to be people that are going to be a little bit more conscious about it.
My dad's like still very apprehensive about going back, even if they were given. I think even there's a few football fans like from the older generation I know now who are refusing to go back unless they find a proper vaccine to cure corona.
100%, yeah. So that is dead right, like, yeah. And so there are things like that you know, that a lot of people will do. Now, you know, it seems to me when I go out today, and I was in London, you know, for the Arsenal game, it's getting a lot back to normal. Restaurants are opening and bars are open and things like that. So, you know, people are getting to go back to a normal sort of life without a vaccine at the moment. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next sort of month or so. But I can tell you that now, if there's no fans in football going into next season and it stays like that, a lot of fans will lose interest.
They'll be put off by it, won't they?
Yeah, you know, and so that's going to be an interesting concept of how they're going to deal with that. Like,
yeah. Lee, coming towards the later stages of this interview, I want to ask you personally, what has been your favourite memory being an Arsenal fan in your years following the club, and also a few of your worst memories as well?
Well, the best one, the best memory obviously is '89. You know, to win the league. You know, to go up to Liverpool.
Michael Thomas.
And Liverpool were like they are now. You know what I mean? Like, and they're doing it week in, week out. Fantastic football team. Jacob, fantastic. You know what I mean? Winning the league every year. Never ever thought that Arsenal would win the league or even get near to it, like, you know, because they were so good. And he had teams like Notts Forest, then were a great side, Aston Villa, and then Everton were a very, very good team as well at the time. But you know, along come that game, and to win that game in the circumstances that it did.
Last kick of
the game was just absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable.
He was a brilliant player as well, Michael Thomas, wasn't he? I mean, he scored a fantastic goal for Liverpool in the final in 1992.
Unbelievable. He went to Liverpool. Can you believe that after that? Like, 2 years later, he went to Liverpool. Unbelievable. But it was a great time following the Arsenal then, because there was a lot of homegrown players, you know, and I think because I was a little bit younger as well, you could relate to those players. Where I feel a bit older now, they're sort of boys now. Do you know what I'm saying? So you don't relate to the players so easily. But like, you know, it was a fantastic time following the Arsenal then, and then obviously when Arsene Wenger came in, my God, we had some fun then with some wonderful football teams. You know, some fantastic players: Bergkamp, Henry, Vieira. you know what I mean, Perez, I could go on, you know what I mean. They were just all wonderfully gifted players. Some great times. Beating Spurs in the semi-final at Old Trafford, which was Sol Campbell's last game, when we was just awesome that day. Should have won it by about 8 or 9, but we had to accept a 2-1 win. But we'll take that. You know, it was a great one. Like, you know, the hardest one for me, and the one reason why I never ever get cocky about an Arsenal Spurs game is in '91. We was, you know, odds on to win the double. We was winning the league easily. We even had points deducted, and we were still going to win the league easy. We get Spurs at Wembley in '91, first ever semi-final to be played at Wembley, and clear and utter favourites. And I went to that game, Jag. I'm going to be honest with you. I went to that game convinced it was not even in the script that we was going to lose that game. Just felt like, you know, there was only going to be one winner, and we ended up losing it. And it's the only time I've come out of a game and cried. I'll be honest, I cried.
I mean, they did have a very talented Paul Gascoigne then at the time. Ready to get his suit measure.
Gary Lineker, but we still had chances. We was 2-1 down, and Kevin hit the bar. Kevin Campbell hit the bar. If that would have gone in, who knows what would have happened. But it was just one of those days. And you know, when you just go back and like, Arsenal ain't got no chance of winning the semi-final on Saturday, because, you know, Man City are far superior. We was far superior than Tottenham, you know, but it's a one-off, so it could happen, like, you know. So that was always hard to say. So whenever we play Spurs now, I never ever go in there thinking that I'm very, very confident, because it can always bite you. And that one certainly did bite me. The greatest thing about that was that 2 years later, we managed to go back there and beat them at Wembley. Can you imagine if, you know, like to this day, if that didn't have happened, you know, they'll still be giving it to us now. So thank God, you know, Arsenal got the chance to go back to just 2 years later and to redeem that, like, you know. So wonderful, wonderful memories, you know, of following the Arsenal, like, you know. So, and listen, you guys like Sunderland have won a couple of trophies in my, or definitely won the FA Cup.
73.
In my lifetime. But, and obviously, like, you know, you've won the Division 1 a couple of times, you know what I mean, coming up. You can't beat winning a trophy. It is the ultimate, like, you know what I mean. We beat Chelsea a couple of years ago in the FA Cup for one of the greatest days I've ever had, atmosphere-wise, game-wise. Chelsea were, you know, again, Chelsea that day were going to look like they was going to win the double. You just can't beat a little trip down Wembley. Winning at Wembley is a special
well, it's
thing.
not for us, because our record there's terrible, Lee.
Oh,
for you, it's like a second home.
Terrible. Listen, everybody's sort of got a little soft spot for Sunderland now after the Netflix thing, you know.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, by the way. What a great watch that was, you know, and see the troubles of the Sunderland fans, and you know, we feel your pain, you know what I mean, yeah. So I think it's been a great thing for you, like,
try as an Arsenal fan going to Wembley and losing 8 times in a row, roughly.
I absolutely feel for you, like, you know, and of course, you know, you don't probably want to bring it up, but the one against Charlton in that playoff, I think
still sends a shiver down my spine.
It was an unbelievable game, you know, and
played Portsmouth in the checker trade and then Charlton in the playoff final.
Yeah. So you've had it tough, haven't you, like, you know, and you know, you're still down in League One at the moment, so I think that's the priority next season, is to get out of there, and get you back up there with the big boys again, like, you know what I mean? Because it's Sunderland's always a good place to go, because you got the good nightlife at Newcastle. You just pop over there and then just pop over and watch Sunderland.
What's wrong with our city, Lee?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Sunderland. Nothing wrong with Sunderland. But always, the last time we went up there, it's bloody freezing, like, you know what I mean. So, but you know, and the steps up at Sunderland, you know, like, oh dear, like, you know what I mean. I don't know what it's about with you lot up the northeast, Newcastle and Sunderland. They've got more steps, you know what I mean, and I don't know what, like, you know. So, but great grounds to go to, great atmospheres. Yeah, and. You know, like, I think I always liked Sunderland because of the red and white as well. Always a bit of
brilliant, man.
As well, like, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, Lee, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you're staying safe at the moment.
Good luck with the channel and everything like that.
Yeah. I wish you and Arsenal Football Club all the best for the future, and give my regards to all the other lads at AFTV as well. Thanks for coming.
I will do, like, you know.
Cheers, Lee. Top man.
Thank you very much.